April 1945. Europe is collapsing, and one German colonel disappears without a trace. No orders, no farewell, no explanation. Colonel Friedrich Krüger, a decorated officer, a master of science, a man consumed by secrets, vanishes beneath the forests of Oberhaus, leaving only a hidden bunker, cryptic journals, and a mystery that would span decades. 75 years later, explorers uncover what he left behind: underground chambers, equipment decades ahead of its time, and writings that hint at a power meant to outlast the world itself. Spring marked the final gasp of the Third Reich. Cities lay in ruins, railways shattered, and the German army crumbling under the relentless push of Allied forces. In the mist-shrouded Harz Mountains, where the forests seemed to swallow every sound, one of the war's most enigmatic disappearances was about to unfold. Colonel Friedrich Krüger, disciplined, decorated, and dangerously intelligent, commanded a remote outpost near Oberhaus Forest. His unit was charged with guarding what Allied intelligence later identified as a research installation of critical importance. But before the Allies could reach it, both Krüger and the facility vanished without a trace. The last record of his voice came in a distorted radio transmission intercepted by a British signal unit on April 30th. Calm, deliberate, and chilling, he said, "If we fail, the future will find us below." Hours later, all communication from the Harz sector went dead. Reconnaissance aircraft sent to survey the area reported heavy smoke, collapsed tunnel entrances, and scorched earth, but no sign of enemy activity, movement, or bodies. It was as though the land itself had swallowed an entire regiment. When Allied forces finally arrived, they found the site abandoned. Bunkers were empty, equipment untouched, coffee cups still half full. No signs of retreat, no spent shell casings, no tire tracks. Only an oppressive, unnatural silence. Logbooks ended mid-sentence, and maps pinned to the walls bore cryptic red markings, concentric circles encircling a single word. Morgan wrote, German for dawn. Most people will scroll away and forget this ever happened, but not you. You have stayed, so please subscribe, because some mind-blowing stories are coming your way. Official records listed Colonel Friedrich Krüger as missing in action, presumed dead, along with every soldier under his command. Yet rumours persisted. Villagers spoke of engines echoing deep beneath the ground long after the war's end. Hikers reported strange, flickering lights below the forest floor at night. Over the years, treasure hunters, historians, and curiosity seekers scoured the Harz Mountains, hoping to uncover what had truly occurred during those final chaotic days. None succeeded, only the heavy silence of the forest and an unsettling sense that something hidden below still lingered, waiting. Before his disappearance, Krüger's reputation was already formidable. Born in 1908, he climbed the ranks with methodical precision, earning respect and fear alike, not through brutality, but through his uncanny strategic mind. Cold, meticulous, and fluent in 5 languages, he was considered indispensable by superiors and enigmatic to his peers. He shared little of his private life, had no known family, and seemed entirely devoted to the Reich, yet beneath his disciplined exterior lay a deeper obsession: science, technology, and the future of warfare, pursued with a near-fanatical intensity. After the war, recovered documents linked Krüger to a series of secret projects, most notably Project Morgenrot. The program allegedly involved experimental energy weapons and subterranean facilities designed to survive Germany's collapse. Allied intelligence largely dismissed the claims as propaganda, but intercepted communications between Krüger and Berlin scientists painted a different picture. He requisitioned industrial generators, reinforced steel, and detailed geological surveys of the Harz Mountains, carefully labelled only as continuity infrastructure. Krüger's obsession with science and future warfare links back to the cryptic Project Morgenrot and the strange infrastructure he requested. Project Morgenrot and its subterranean facilities provide a thread to continue exploring, suggesting the story isn't over and more secrets remain to be revealed. Some say the answers are still waiting, buried under layers of earth, hidden by the very man who vanished, and guarded by a secret that would shake anyone who dared to uncover it. By 1945, Friedrich Krüger had become a figure on every Allied watch list. But as the Reich crumbled, so did the trail of his movements. His personnel file was destroyed in a bombing raid, and witness accounts were contradictory. Some claimed he fled east toward Czechoslovakia. Others insisted he remained behind, guarding something hidden deep beneath the Harz Mountains. British investigators who later examined the ruins of his outpost found the layout unnaturally complex, sealed corridors plunging into the earth. When they attempted entry, walls collapsed as if deliberately rigged to trap anyone who tried. No body was ever recovered, no formal grave ever found. What haunted investigators most, however, was not the absence of evidence, but the fragments that remained. A single officer's cap lay on a stone floor, its silver eagle insignia untouched by dust. Even today, historians argue whether Krüger died with his men, escaped justice, or accomplished something far stranger. In post-war Germany, his name became legend, whispered in taverns and late-night broadcasts as Der Geist Oberst, the ghost colonel. The deeper one delves into his story, the more it becomes clear Friedrich Krüger did not merely vanish, he erased himself, and perhaps everything he had been building. The ruined outpost and underground corridors echo the earlier reports of strange red markings, and Morgan wrote, tying back to the mysterious installation. Truly lies beneath the Harz Mountains remains unknown, setting up the next chapter of investigation or discovery. Did Krüger escape or achieve something far stranger? The answer may still be buried, waiting to be found. By May, the war had officially ended. On paper, victory belonged to the Allies, but as intelligence teams combed the forests and tunnels of central Germany, new enigmas began to surface. Operation Eclipse, the British mission to sweep the Harz Mountains after Germany's surrender, aimed to uncover hidden bunkers, secret research facilities, and fugitive officers. Near Oberhaus Forest, what they found was beyond explanation. The terrain where Colonel Krüger's regiment had last been seen was littered with mangled steel and partially buried entrances, an underground labyrinth absent from any official maps. Engineers ventured into the tunnels that could be entered safely. The walls were lined with scorched cables, and blast doors had melted under heat so intense that their bolts twisted and buckled. Among the rubble, fragments of blueprints appeared, stamped in red ink with the title Project Morgan wrote. Many sections were missing, deliberately destroyed. Notations like phase containment and sub-level expansion recurred throughout the papers. Nearby, crates bearing the Reichskrüger emblem held equipment far beyond standard military-issue oscilloscopes, sealed cylinders of unknown gas, and reels of magnetic wire inscribed with codes that defied interpretation. No bodies were found, no tracks, no evidence of retreat. It was as if those stationed there had vanished in an instant. The blackened tunnels and incomplete Morgan-wrote blueprints recall Krüger's obsession with subterranean projects and experimental technology. The secrets of Project Morgan-wrote, and what might still lie beneath the Harz Mountains, remain unanswered, hinting at discoveries yet to come. Were these instruments part of something far deadlier than imagined? And could Krüger's work still be hidden, waiting to be unearthed? Thanks for watching so far. If you are comfortable, comment where are you watching from and what's the time over there. Thank you, and let's stay locked. The British command ordered the site sealed. A team from the Royal Engineers detonated the remaining tunnels, burying whatever lay beneath under tons of rock. Yet in private memos, intelligence officers questioned the logic of their own actions. Why had Krüger's men destroyed their research but left sophisticated equipment intact? And what exactly was Project Dawn? A weapon, a refuge, or something far stranger? By winter, Operation Eclipse was officially concluded. The remaining documents were classified ultra and locked away in a Ministry of Defense vault, left untouched for decades. Publicly, the discovery was reported as nothing more than an abandoned communications bunker. But for those who had been there, those who had stood at the tunnel mouths and heard a low, rhythmic hum from the depths, the official story never answered the question that lingered. If the war was over, why did it still sound like something was running beneath the mountains? In the years that followed, the Harz Mountains seemed to return to peace. Forests regrew, masking bomb craters and buried tunnels. Tourists came for hiking trails and mineral springs, unaware of what lay beneath their feet. Locals, however, remembered. Hunters spoke of metallic echoes drifting through the valleys at night, faint thuds of machinery beneath the soil. In the village of Shiake, an elderly woman claimed her cellar walls sometimes vibrated, as if a train were passing underground. When she reported it to authorities, they dismissed it as settling earth, but she swore it was something alive. The low hum and subterranean echoes echo the strange machinery in mysterious tunnels explored by Allied engineers during Operation Eclipse. What truly remains beneath the Harz Mountains, and whether Kruger's work survived the demolition, remains unknown, opening the door for further investigation. By the 1950s, scavengers combed the Harz Hills for wartime relics, helmets, medals, spent shells. Some returned with far stranger finds. A group of teenagers exploring a sealed tunnel near Oberhaus Forest stumbled upon a wall where iron insignia appeared fused into the rock as if molten. Another searcher uncovered a rusted Geiger counter that still clicked faintly in his hands. Years later, soil tests revealed trace radiation in the area, but no one could explain why. Then there was the tale of the breathing door. In 1962, a hiker named Otto Schwartz disappeared for days in the forest near Silberberg. When he returned, dehydrated and shaking, he told authorities he had followed a narrow ridge path and found a slab of metal embedded in the cliffside. Warm to the touch, it seemed to pulse softly, as if inhaling and exhaling. Schwartz had tried to pry it open, but a deep hum filled the air, and he collapsed. The police dismissed it as heat stroke, but he never ventured near the mountains again. Over the years, these accounts hardened into local folklore, ghost stories told in dim taverns on stormy nights. Villagers whispered that the war had left its ghosts, still labouring endlessly beneath the earth, and every decade, someone new swore they had heard the same low vibration, steady as a heartbeat, emanating from the sealed ground. Whether a natural trick or the echo of human engineering, no one could say. But the mountains kept their secret, and those who listened too closely often felt it listening back. The strange hums and pulses echo the noises and machinery first recorded during Operation Eclipse and the mysterious tunnels of Project Morgenrot. Decades later, new explorers and investigators continue to seek answers, keeping Kruger's legacy and the mountain's secrets alive. What truly lies beneath the sealed earth, still pulsing and humming, remains unknown, and perhaps waiting for someone bold enough to uncover it. You followed Mercer this far, don't stop now. Most people scroll past stories like this and forget, but not you. You felt something. Don't just watch, subscribe before the next secret disappears. For decades, Colonel Kruger and his regiment were simply counted among the missing, a casualty of war, swallowed by chaos. But the opening of Soviet wartime archives in the 1990s revealed a thread that changed everything. Buried among stacks of yellowing reports and intercepted messages was a dispatch dated April 28, 1945, from a Red Army observation post near Leipzig. It described a column of unmarked German transport trucks moving west under the cover of night, escorted by armed SS personnel. The cargo sealed crates of scientific materials and passengers of unknown identity. Their destination, the Harz Mountains. The following day, Soviet reconnaissance aircraft tried to track the convoy, only to lose it in dense fog. The trucks vanished without a trace. No wreckage, no surrenders, nothing. Western intelligence would remain unaware of the report for decades. When researchers later compared the coordinates with declassified British aerial imagery from the same period, the results were eerie, faint tire tracks led into a valley near Oberhaus Forest, and none emerged. The terrain was riddled with caves, some natural, some expanded by wartime digging, but surveys after the war showed no tunnel large enough for vehicles. It was as if the earth had simply closed over them. What had those trucks carried? Inventory lists found in a separate Soviet file matched equipment. Kruger had requisitioned weeks before Berlin fell diesel generators, steel coolant drums, and containers marked with hazard symbols. One cryptic notation mentioned Project Morgan Phase 2. Some historians speculated it was experimental machinery or weapons prototypes. Others whispered of darker possibilities, occult research, psychic experiments, or whatever the Reich had hoped would secure its final, impossible victory. The missing trucks, hazardous containers and cryptic project names linked directly to the underground research and Project Morgenrot uncovered during Operation Eclipse. If Kruger's convoy made it into the mountains, could its secrets have survived decades hidden beneath the earth? Project Morgan Phase 2 hints at knowledge or technology beyond comprehension. What truly lay in those sealed crates? And who or what remained in the shadows? People vanish because they ignored the signs, the silence, the feeling of being watched, the instinct that something is wrong. Most people do the same, until it's too late. Don't wait to be the next mystery. Learn how to stay alert, grounded and alive wherever you are. Get your survival guide in the pinned comment below. In the early 2000s, satellite scans of the Harz region revealed a series of geometric depressions in the forest floor, arranged with eerie precision, almost like parking bays. The dimensions corresponded to military trucks. Geologists noted that the soil above these depressions was unusually dense, as if reinforced. One question haunted the analysts: had the convoy really driven into the mountain? If so, who or what had created the path? Rediscoveries often begin with something mundane. In the spring of 2010, a farmer named Dieter Lang was ploughing his field near Waldenau, a quiet village at the Harz foothills, when his tractor struck a solid object. Thinking it was a rock, he dug it free and uncovered a small, rusted metal box no larger than a lunch tin, sealed by corroded hinges. Inside, wrapped in damp cloth, were water-damaged documents, a cracked photograph, and a black leather-bound diary. Tucked at the bottom was a small iron key stamped with an insignia, an eagle clutching a rising sun, identical to the mark found in Kruger's destroyed headquarters. The diary's handwriting was precise, measured, but grew increasingly frantic over time. The pages, dated February through April 1945, chronicled the movements of Kommando Morgenrot, a unit operating under Colonel Friedrich Kruger. Entries detailed sublevels nearing completion, dwindling supplies, and finally a line in trembling script: "The circle is sealed. We wait for the new dawn." The geometric depressions and reinforced soil echo the tunnels and subterranean infrastructure tied to Kruger's Project Morgenrot and the missing convoy. Could the diary and its key unlock the remaining secrets of the Harz Mountains, revealing what truly lay beneath? What did the new dawn mean? And was it still waiting to emerge from the sealed sublevels decades later? In the early 2000s, satellite scans of the Harz region revealed a series of geometric depressions in the forest floor, arranged with eerie precision, almost like parking bays. The dimensions corresponded to military trucks. Geologists noted that the soil above these depressions was unusually dense, as if reinforced. One question haunted the analysts: had the convoy really driven into the mountain? If so, who or what had created the path? Rediscoveries often begin with something mundane. In the spring of 2010, a farmer named Dieter Lang was ploughing his field near Waldenau, a quiet village at the Harz foothills, when his tractor struck a solid object. Thinking it was a rock, he dug it free and uncovered a small rusted metal box no larger than a lunch tin, sealed by corroded hinges. Inside, wrapped in damp cloth, were water-damaged documents, a cracked photograph, and a black leather-bound diary. Tucked at the bottom was a small iron key stamped with an insignia, an eagle clutching a rising sun, identical to the mark found in Kruger's destroyed headquarters. The diary's handwriting was precise, measured, but grew increasingly frantic over time. The pages, dated February through April 1945, chronicled the movements of Kommando Morgenrot, a unit operating under Colonel Friedrich Kruger. Entries detailed sublevels nearing completion, dwindling supplies, and finally a line in trembling script: "The circle is sealed. We wait for the new dawn." The geometric depressions and reinforced soil echo the tunnels and subterranean infrastructure tied to Kruger's Project Morgenrot and the missing convoy. Could the diary and its key unlock the remaining secrets of the Harz Mountains, revealing what truly lay beneath? What did the new dawn mean, and was it still waiting to emerge from the sealed sublevels decades later? The farmer handed the box and its contents to local authorities, who forwarded the materials to historians at Göttingen University. For months, the discovery attracted little attention, until a researcher noticed the name Krugerrand, the sun emblem, identical to those in old intelligence files. Within weeks, whispers spread through academic circles. The media picked up the story, and soon conspiracy theorists flocked to the Harz Mountains, convinced the diary was proof of a hidden Nazi sanctuary buried deep beneath the forests. Government officials attempted to quell the excitement, dismissing it as another relic of wartime intrigue. Yet numerous details in the diary matched declassified British records coordinates, supply shipments, even the precise timing of the missing convoy. More disturbing were passages that read like prophecy, mentioning the sleepers below and the hum that never stops. The iron key was tested but fit nothing known. Metallurgists noted it had been forged from a rare tungsten-nickel alloy, typically reserved for experimental machinery. When journalists asked where the box was now, officials claimed it had been misplaced in storage. Those who had seen it firsthand suspected otherwise. It seemed less an accident than a deliberate burial of the past, resurfacing once again, clawing through the dirt to remind the world that the circle, perhaps, had never truly been broken. References to the sleepers below and the rare key tie directly back to Kruger's underground facilities, Project Morgenrot, and the mysterious convoy. The diary, the key, and the vanished convoy suggest there may be more hidden beneath the Harz Mountains, waiting to be uncovered. Was the circle truly sealed, or has something endured, silent and patient, beneath the mountains for decades, ready to awaken? You weren't supposed to hear this story, but now you have. Subscribe before they realize you know too much. For decades, Colonel Kruger's final movements were dismissed as rumor, pieced together only from scorched documents and fragmentary reports. Then, in 2017, retired cryptologist Dr. Marta Vogel uncovered something previously overlooked. While examining high-resolution scans of Kruger's recovered diary, she noticed faint indentations beneath the visible text, marks pressed from the opposite page. Using multispectral imaging, she revealed a sequence of numbers interlaced with symbols resembling navigation markers. When decoded, the coordinates pointed to a dense section of forest just outside Oberhaus Forest, deep in the Harz Mountains. Initially, Vogel assumed it was a simple mapping note, but when she cross-referenced the coordinates with wartime maps, no known installation or structure appeared. Overlaying the data on declassified Royal Air Force aerial photos from 1945 revealed a disturbing pattern: shallow depressions forming a near-perfect circle almost 200 meters across. At its center, the forest canopy was darker and thicker, as if concealing an unnatural sinkhole. Decades of subsequent imagery showed the same anomaly persisting and even growing denser over time, yet never fully disappearing. When Vogel attempted to access the site, she found it completely blocked. A chain-link fence now surrounded the perimeter, plastered with government signs warning of ecological restoration. Locals, however, whispered differently. They claimed the barrier had appeared overnight and had been guarded for weeks by unmarked trucks. Those who approached reported faint mechanical sounds beneath the soil, a low, rhythmic hum like distant turbines. Vogel presented her findings to a university panel, only to have her excavation proposal denied without explanation. Within months, her grant funding evaporated. Officially, the area was a sensitive wildlife preserve. Unofficially, it had become a dead zone. And yet, curiosity never sleeps. The hum beneath the soil, the hidden circular depressions, and Kruger's diary coordinates link back to the tunnels, Project Morgenrot, and the sealed sublevels explored decades earlier. If the anomaly still exists, could it contain the remnants of Kruger's experiments, or the missing convoy waiting to be uncovered? What exactly lies beneath that forest floor, and who or what is keeping it hidden from the world? Amateur historians began quietly sharing Kruger's coordinates on obscure online forums, cross-referencing the terrain with sketches from the so-called Morgenrot files. Everything seemed to align: the missing convoy, the sealed tunnels, the persistent underground hum. To most it was coincidence, but to a handful of dedicated Kruger enthusiasts, it was proof of something buried, built to endure. They gave it a name: the Circle of Dawn, and they believed it still waited patient for anyone daring or foolish enough to unseal it. Nearly 75 years after Colonel Kruger disappeared, technology finally caught up with his ghost. In the summer of 2020, a small team of urban explorers calling themselves the Hartz Anomaly Research Division, HARD, announced plans to survey the restricted Falkenwald forest. Led by former geology student Tobias Bauer, the group deployed portable ground-penetrating radar and drone-mounted LiDAR scanners to map areas the government refused to acknowledge. Within hours, their instruments detected dense metallic reflections nearly 40 meters underground, long corridors, square chambers, and what appeared to be a rail line disappearing into solid rock. "It's not a cave," Bauer whispered in one recorded clip. "It's engineered." Over the next 3 nights, the team documented everything: faint magnetic interference, low-frequency vibrations that peaked around midnight, and the echo of hollow spaces beneath their feet. On the 4th night, one drone's infrared camera picked up an anomaly: a perfectly symmetrical, rectangular outline, partially concealed by moss and roots. Excavating around it revealed what looked like a reinforced steel door, its surface corroded, but still bearing a faint engraving of the rising sun. The steel door, underground rail lines, and faint hum echo the tunnels Project Morgan wrote, and Kruger's Circle of Dawn explored in decades of reports and diaries. Could this door be the gateway to the sublevels Kruger and his unit constructed, hiding the remnants of their work for decades? What lies beyond the corroded steel? And will the Circle of Dawn finally reveal the secrets it has guarded for nearly a century? They never attempted to open the door. In fact, they never got the chance. According to surviving HARD members, the ground beneath them began to tremble. A deep, mechanical hum rose from the earth, steady and rhythmic, pulsing like the breath of some colossal organism. Terrified, the team packed up and fled, leaving behind one of their data drives. Within days, fragments of the footage appeared online. Grainy clips showing the steel door, the rails, and a massive subterranean chamber lined with rusted girders. The videos circulated on Reddit and YouTube before being removed under claims of copyright violations. Only a few frames survived, mirrored and re-uploaded anonymously. In one fleeting moment, a symbol appeared on the metal surface, an eagle clutching a rising sun, Kruger's insignia. Official agencies never acknowledged the footage. Journalists who contacted the HARD team received little comment. Tobias Bauer simply stated, "We saw something that wasn't meant to be found, and someone made sure we never found it again." Whatever lay beneath Oberhaus Forest had stirred, and for the first time in decades the world seemed to notice. For months after the footage vanished, only fragments circulated: still frames, pixelated outlines, and the faint emblem that kept historians debating. Most dismissed it as a hoax. But one man refused to let it go. Dr. Max Heller, a historian specializing in post-war intelligence archives, had spent years tracing rumors of Kruger's underground network. When he recognized the insignia on the leaked footage, the same eagle and rising sun documented in declassified MI6 reports, he decided to follow the coordinates himself. The eagle and sun insignia, the underground rails, and the humming echo directly tie back to Kruger's tunnels, Project Morgan wrote, and the Circle of Dawn explored by HARD. Heller's journey could uncover what decades of secrecy and disappeared explorers have failed to reveal. What awaits him at the end of those coordinates? And is the Circle of Dawn still active, waiting for those bold enough to enter? By early autumn, Heller had reached Oberhaus Forest. Using GPS metadata extracted from one of the surviving HARD clips, he pinpointed a slope deep inside the restricted forest. The air was damp, thick with the scent of pine and wet earth. The ground appeared untouched, overgrown and uneven, yet hours into his search, his metal detector emitted a sharp, persistent tone. Beneath layers of moss and soil, something solid lay hidden. Clearing the debris revealed a steel hatch, nearly 2 meters wide, its edges precise and unmistakably crafted, its hinges fused and handles corroded over decades. With the aid of a local engineer, Heller rigged a pulley system and forced the hatch open. A hiss of stale air erupted from below, carrying the odors of oil, iron, and something far older, decay sealed away for decades. Beyond the opening, a narrow spiral staircase descended into utter darkness, its metal slick with condensation. Their flashlights revealed walls dusted with frost, as though the cold had lingered, untouched by time. They moved down cautiously. Each step muted the sounds of the world above. 50 steps in, the temperature dropped sharply. 70 steps down, the air thickened, heavy with metallic tang. At the base stood a massive blast door, bearing Kruger's insignia, its paint cracked but unmistakable. As the hinges groaned under their push, the door swung open, and their lights revealed a sight that left the team frozen in stunned silence. The hatch, spiral staircase and blast door mirror decades of reports, the tunnels of Project Morgenrot, and Hard's infrared findings. Beyond this door could lie the long-hidden secrets of Kruger, the missing convoy, and the Circle of Dawn itself. What waited behind that door? And was it something human, mechanical, or a remnant of experiments that should never have existed? The chamber beyond was astonishingly intact. Desks were still covered with maps, lamps stood upright, and dust lay untouched. A clipboard rested on the floor, dated April 30th, 1945. In one corner, crates were stacked high, stamped with the label Project Morgenrot, Phase 5. Everything appeared frozen in time, as if the men who had worked here had simply stepped away. Above ground, the war had ended, but down here, it had paused. As they ventured further, the bunker revealed even stranger details. This was not a ruin. It was a time capsule meticulously preserved against decay. Maps pinned to corkboards retained crisp edges and meticulous annotations, red lines converging on a single symbol, a rising sun. Gas masks hung along the walls, their lenses fogged but intact. Uniforms, neatly folded, bore Kruger's insignia, the same winged sun stitched onto every sleeve. There were no signs of struggle, no bullet holes, no structural damage. Every element suggested deliberate preservation, as if the space had been prepared for future eyes. On the far wall, a mural stretched in bold crimson letters, Morgenrot beginnt on 10. Dawn begins below. Beneath it, the sun rose not into the sky, but into black mountains, its rays sinking into the earth. Crates beneath the mural bore serial numbers long missing from Allied recovery logs, items officially marked unaccounted for since 1945. Inside were rusted instruments, vacuum tubes, and glass canisters containing yellowed residues. Some held rolled papers, sealed with wax and stamped with the initials, others rattled faintly, as if concealing tiny metal fragments, hinting at a secret waiting to be uncovered. The winged sun, Project Morgenrot labeling, and dawn begins below tie directly back to Kruger. The Circle of Dawn, and decades of underground research discovered in previous reports and diaries. Could these forgotten instruments and sealed crates contain the final key to Kruger's mysterious experiments? The missing convoy, or the secrets of the sublevels? Chidi, what purpose did this hidden chamber serve, and had whatever it was built for survived untouched, waiting for someone to awaken it? Near the command desk, Hella's flashlight revealed something startling. A figure slumped forward, frozen in time, uniform immaculate despite decades of neglect. A skeletal hand rested atop a typewriter, and on the desk lay a journal. Ink faded but decipherable signal maintained. Power low. The colonel remained steadfast. Dawn will come beneath, not above. Silence fell over the team. One member snapped a single photograph before the batteries gave out, plunging the room into darkness. The air thickened, almost palpable, as if the walls themselves were listening. From deep below, a mechanical vibration thrummed, a low, persistent pulse identical to the hum reported by Hard in 2020, alive after nearly 80 years. Emerging back into the forest, the first light of dawn filtered through the trees. The hatch was closed behind them, quivering faintly under their hands. Whatever Kruger's men had left behind was not dormant, it had endured. For the first time in decades, it was stirring. Days later, federal agents arrived quietly. The site was cordoned off, officially citing geological instability, though the truth was far stranger. Hella was escorted from the area and instructed to hand over all photographs and recovered materials. He was promised access to the official report once the assessment concluded, a promise that never came. If the system beneath the Harz Mountains is still active, it may hold answers to Kruger's experiments and the missing convoy. What happened next was reconstructed from fragments, classified memos, whispered briefings, and a handful of unofficial testimonies. When specialists from the Federal Archive and the Bundeswehr Engineering Corps descended into the site, they uncovered a communications chamber connected to a dormant generator that somehow still carried a faint residual charge. In the corner, half buried beneath debris, sat a reel-to-reel recorder. The spools were intact, the tape fragile but restorable. Once repaired, the playback filled the room with static. Then, through the crackle, a voice emerged. Calm, disciplined, German. Berlin has fallen. We remain loyal. Project Dawn continues beneath the earth. The log was dated April 30th, 1945, the day Hitler's death was announced. Subsequent recordings grew shorter, weaker, more fragmented. A voice complained of falling oxygen levels, another spoke of a strange light in the lower chamber and a collapse in morale. The final entry came as a whisper, barely audible, we will not ascend. Then, only static, no abrupt stop, no sign of malfunction, just the quiet exhale of a system that had chosen to stay silent. No evidence of gunfire, no footprints, no sign anyone had left. It wasn't abandonment. It was deliberate entombment. The final whisper echoes the old motto painted inside Kruger's command room. Dawn begins below. Why would Colonel Kruger and his men choose to lock themselves away beneath the earth while the Reich above them disintegrated? Historians later theorized they weren't running from the war's end. They were preserving something. Protectors, perhaps, of a secret too volatile to surrender. Yet one discovery unsettled even the most skeptical investigators: the internal generator was still alive, weak but pulsing, a slow rhythmic vibration that felt more like breath than machinery. The bunker hadn't died, it had only gone dormant. And the final message ing through static seemed to whisper the truth no one wanted to face. Project Dawn never ended, it only went silent. When the team advanced beyond the main operations chamber, they reached another barrier, a pressure door reinforced with rivets and warning sigils. Beyond it lay a complex of laboratories that seemed decades ahead of 1945. The air was unnaturally cold, as if the entire space had been refrigerated for preservation. Frost glistened on the steel piping. Ice veiled the workbenches, and the instruments looked untouched by time, waiting. Against one wall stood rows of copper coils, glass tubes and vacuum chambers wired to dormant consoles. A single generator-like device still gave off a weak electromagnetic pulse, humming faintly as though refusing to die. Each piece bore labels stamped with the words Morgenrot Engerwandlung, Dawn Energy Conversion. The implication was staggering. On a nearby desk, they found a collection of notebooks bound in black cloth, written in Kruger's own meticulous hand. The entries referenced Die Fortsetzung phase, the continuation phase, and Nachkriegswiederkehr, post-war return. He had planned for survival, not surrender, for reactivation, not ruin. One page described a sustained light reaction capable of self-renewing power, a concept scientists wouldn't publicly theorize for another half-century. The same phrase, Dawn begins below, was painted across the bunker's mural decades earlier, its meaning now horrifically clear. The hum heard by explorers in 2020 was never a remnant, it was the same current that had outlived its creators. Whatever Colonel Kruger built beneath the mountains wasn't meant to end with the war, it was meant to wait for one. If you think this story's over, you haven't been paying attention. Subscribe now, while the forest is still quiet. Farther below, the team unearthed a row of sealed storage crates. Inside lay mechanical components, unlike anything catalogued from the era, fragments of machines with seamless joints, alloys no one could name. One crate bore an inscription carved directly into the metal Für Morgenrot. Für den Morgen, for dawn, for the morning. From that moment the tone of the mission changed. The chatter of researchers fell silent as unmarked vehicles rolled into Oberhaus Forest. Within the hour, military intelligence units arrived, flamartad by plainclothes officials who spoke little and carried sealed orders. Every crate, notebook and fragment was catalogued, boxed and removed before any photos could be taken. The official explanation labelled the materials unstable ordnance, a claim that satisfied no one who'd seen them. The scientists knew what they had touched wasn't weaponry, it was machinery, alive with purpose. The remaining chambers were welded shut under orders stamped ultra-confidential. Those involved were sworn to silence, yet one engineer later broke that oath. He described seeing a black NATO-marked truck leaving the site before dawn. Through its open rear doors he glimpsed a single crate left uncovered, a glass cylinder faintly glowing from within, its light slow and rhythmic, like something breathing. That same pulse had echoed through the mountains since 1945, the heartbeat the villagers once mistook for distant machinery. Whatever was sealed beneath the hearts hadn't stopped, it had adapted, passed quietly from one generation's secrecy to another's science. And if the glow beneath that cylinder was truly alive, then Project Dawn didn't just survive history, it became part of it. When the excavation resumed, forensic experts were given restricted access to the lower levels, what the engineers labelled Sector 5. As they descended, the metallic tang in the air thickened, merging with a scent older than rust, dry, oil, and slow decay preserved by decades of cold. The first chamber they entered resembled a council room. Along the walls, faded banners hung limp, each marked with the black sun emblem. In the centre sat several skeletal figures, still clad in the remnants of Wehrmacht uniforms. Their bones were unnaturally clean, almost bleached. What unsettled the team most was their posture. Each was seated upright, arranged in a perfect circle, as though frozen mid-conference. No gunshot wounds, no broken bones. Before each body lay a Luger, carefully oiled and preserved, yet every weapon remained unfired. It looked less like a suicide pact and more like a ritual. At the heart of the room, a folded uniform rested atop a metal case. The collar insignia read Oberst Friedrich Krüger. Next to it, a rusted pistol with one round missing and a single piece of paper, its ink blurred but legible. The dawn is not above but within. We will join it below. DNA confirmed it, Krüger was among them, but the evidence contradicted the report. The skull fragment from the supposed gunshot was missing, and that final bullet, the one meant to take his life, was never found. The deeper they looked, the clearer it became something had survived beneath that bunker. Something even Krüger's men had been waiting for. Investigators realized this wasn't just a mass death, it was a message, a continuation of the same phrase that appeared carved into the stolen device from the upper levels. Morgan wrote, Für den Morgen. Forensic investigators quickly realized there was something disturbingly deliberate about the arrangement. The circle of bodies was measured, precise down to the centimetre. Between each pair of skeletons sat paraffin candle stubs, their wicks untouched, never lit. Along the chamber walls, faint chalk lines curved into constellations, symbols resembling astrological charts rather than military schematics. Some experts labelled it a ritualized suicide. Others proposed asphyxiation, starvation, or self-administered toxins. But none could explain the composition, the symmetry, the silence, the sense that these men hadn't died in despair but in ceremony. As the team continued their work, seismic sensors picked up faint vibrations beneath the floor. Steady, rhythmic pulses that did not match any machinery known to be in the area. When a technician drilled into the ground for samples, the bit struck something metallic, dense enough to stall the drill. Seconds later, the equipment cut out completely. Before any analysis could continue, a terse command came over the radio: cease excavation immediately. Within hours the chamber was sealed. Within days the dead were entombed once more, under welded steel and silence. The public never learned about the bodies. The excavation's name was changed overnight from Oberhaus Forest Excavation to a sanitized internal code site A. Files were locked, staff were reassigned, and every civilian researcher was made to sign lifetime non-disclosure agreements. The official statement issued to the press was short operations suspended due to geological instability and contamination risk. But those who had been there, those who'd heard the low pulses echoing from below, knew something else had forced the shutdown. The rhythmic pulses matched earlier readings captured in Sector 5, the same pattern that had once emanated from the confiscated glass cylinder, marked Für Morgen wrote. Now, officials were divided. The argument wasn't over what they had found, but whether to keep digging. Someone, somewhere, believed that whatever lay beneath Site A was still active. Weeks later, a night security guard stationed near the sealed entrance reported a deep vibration underfoot, steady, slow, unmistakably alive. And when he pressed his ear to the steel, he swore he could hear it breathing. Leaked memos later confirmed what many had suspected. British and American intelligence had immediately seized several key artifacts from the site, citing post-war cooperative defense agreements. German authorities protested, arguing the bunker lay within domestic jurisdiction, but their objections were ignored. Within days, a NATO task force arrived and took control, justifying their intervention under joint security interest. The bureaucratic struggle dragged on for months, even as the most valuable contents were quietly removed, catalogued and shipped to undisclosed facilities across Europe and North America. Then the activity spread beyond the bunker itself. Nearby villagers began reporting nighttime convoys of blacked-out trucks rumbling through the forest roads. Helicopters circled the ridgeline for hours without explanation. For a time it seemed as though an invisible war was being fought in the shadows of the Harz Mountains. And then, just as abruptly, it ended. The entrances were sealed, the tunnels flooded with concrete, and the hillside declared a restricted environmental zone. Fresh soil was layered over the scars, young pines planted in neat concealing rows. The mountain was left to heal or to hide. But some things refuse burial. Months after closure, several members of the excavation team came forward anonymously. They spoke of a low, continuous hum that never ceased, even after the site was sealed. One engineer described standing above the chamber of bodies and watching frost spread in a slow ring around his boots, as though something beneath the concrete was still breathing cold into the earth. Another claimed that their Geiger counter, though reading normal radiation, spiked briefly whenever that hum deepened in tone, as if reacting to an unseen energy pulse. The same frequency pattern, recorded deep beneath the bunker, matched the energy signature logged years earlier from Project Dawn's archived generator core. Officials dismissed the reports as superstition, yet internal communications revealed plans for a new survey mission labeled Reassessment Initiative 47. That mission never appeared in public records, but decades later, satellite scans detected a faint thermal anomaly beneath the mountain, in the exact shape of the old bunker's layout, glowing faintly, like something waiting to wake. Another claimed that as he neared the old entrance site, his compass needle began to spin wildly, as though magnetized by something deep below. None of these accounts were ever logged in the final report. The ministry dismissed them all as psychological strain following extended subterranean exposure. Yet even today, locals in Oberhaus Forest speak differently. They say that when the air turns cold and the mist hangs low over the forest, you can feel a faint vibration beneath your boots. Steady, deliberate, mechanical, and if you stay long enough just before sunrise, you might hear it a low rhythmic thrum, pulsing in time with the earth itself. Whatever Colonel Kruger built beneath the Harz Mountains was never meant to stop, and that hum rising from the depths is no mere echo, it's a heartbeat, a warning, a reminder that Project Morgan wrote, Project Dawn, never truly ended. Almost 80 years have passed since Friedrich Kruger and his men sealed themselves underground, but their legacy still hums through classified archives and whispered accounts. The official files remain locked, witnesses long dead, and surviving pages warped with time. Historians continue to argue, was Project Dawn a failed doomsday reactor, or something far beyond the limits of wartime science? Those who have studied Kruger's recovered notebooks notice something unsettling. His formulas reference energy confinement and plasma stability, concepts that didn't appear in public research until decades later. It was as if he was building something not for war, but for the future, something he believed would awaken long after the world above had forgotten his name. Was Kruger truly on the brink of unlocking cold fusion, an energy source capable of rewriting civilization itself? Or had his work crossed into something far darker, beyond the boundary of known science? His final notes spoke not only of energy and matter, but of resonant frequencies within organic systems and the conversion of spirit to mass. Some dismissed it as a metaphor. Others saw it for what it might have been, a scientist's descent into the metaphysical, where physics and faith collided. In the decades since the site's closure, strange anomalies have refused to fade. Satellite imaging still detects faint electromagnetic signatures beneath Oberhaus Forest, a rhythmic pulse with no geological explanation. Wildlife avoids the ridge entirely, and the trees that grow there twist in subtle spirals as though repelled by something unseen. On still nights, hikers whisper of a hum beneath the soil, steady, deliberate, too mechanical to be wind. Governments deny any ongoing investigation. Official records call Project Morgenrot a wartime myth, but internal procurement forms from the early 2000s reveal otherwise. Classified funding for energy resonance stabilization under NATO oversight, traced to the same agencies that once removed Kruger's equipment. Perhaps the greatest mystery isn't what Kruger built, but why. Did he believe he was preserving humanity or transcending it? Was Morgenrot meant to illuminate the world or bury it in eternal dawn? Whatever the truth, one thing remains beneath the forests of Oberhaus Forest. Something still hums, waiting, listening. He vanished into history. But history never stopped hearing him. This story was unbelievable, but the one waiting on the right will leave you completely speechless.